Welcome to the Ignition News, and we're going to start in New York. So we're going to start in Troy, New York, which has a population of 52,000 people. It's a small city in the upstate part of New York. It's about 2 hours north of the city, and it's a place where, you know your neighbors, and where a mom walking her newborn around the block is a perfectly ordinary sight on a Tuesday. That's actually how this whole thing started, by the way. A woman named Deirdre Shea was walking her newborn when she spotted something at the end of her block. It was a strange black contraption that, of course, you would know by now if you've been following the Ignition News. It had a solar panel on it, and she did some research and finally found out that it was an AI license plate reader. Flock safety. And Troy has not been the same since. Here's what she found out. Police in Troy had installed 26 of these cameras without getting approval from the city council and without asking residents for any input at all. Does that sound familiar? The cameras are run by a company called Flock Safety, whose equipment is now mounted on more than 5,000 communities across the country. Now, let's pause on that number for a second. You should be asking yourself right now, is my community one of those 4,000 communities? Because I can tell you from the work that we've been doing here on the Ignition, the answer in a lot of those places is yes. Now back to Troy. The city council started reviewing why no one other than the police department signed off on the initial contract. The contract with Flock Safety was worth $156,000 for 2 years, and anything over $35,000 typically requires city council approval. $156,000. No vote happened. No public hearing happened. Nobody said a word. The council tried to do something about it. They told the city auditor to stop paying Flock and, to let the contract expire. That's when everything went sideways. The Republican mayor declared a public safety emergency to keep AI cameras running. This is interesting because public safety emergencies are usually restricted for major incidents like floods or blizzards. The argument from the mayor was that if Flock Safety did not get paid, they would pull the cameras out and that would endanger public safety. Just think about that. She took a tool that exists for natural disasters, an emergency declaration, and she aimed it at the Constitution, at the legislative process, at the voters. Now, the city council responded to the emergency declaration by suing the mayor. City council president Sue Steele said, "I think it was done secretly, and when you aren't transparent, that angers people. It touches on the nerves of 1984. Big Brother is watching you." And then the residents showed up. Local activists gathered outside. It's surveillance, not safety. A statement from Troy residents against Flock cameras put it directly. Mayor Mantello has no authority whatsoever to declare a public emergency because she didn't get her way in terms of policy. It's time for the mayor to wake up and smell the coffee. The people of Troy do not want Flock cameras. And here's where it gets ugly behind Troy city limits, because these cameras are not just reading plates. Records uncovered by independent journalists at TechSite 404 revealed that across the country, Flock camera searches have been happening on behalf of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Audit trails also revealed Texas deputies searched for cameras across the entire country, including Spokane County, to locate a woman who had given herself an abortion. Texas law enforcement using private AI cameras deployed in Washington state to hunt a woman for her own healthcare decisions. In another high-profile case of misuse, a Kansas police chief was forced to resign after he used Flock cameras to stalk his ex-girlfriend. The ACLU has been, of course, sounding the alarms about this. We have been sounding the alarms about this, and we're starting to uncover a situation where Flock Safety is circumventing, in coordination with these governments, long-standing government contract approval processes. We've been covering this for months here in Las Vegas. What's happening in Troy is not unique. It's a template. Secret contracts, friendly police departments, and a private tech company with a product in 4,000 towns. The only thing that stopped this in Troy was a mom with a stroller and enough nerve to tell her neighbors. And what that tells you is you can do the same thing as well. Let me tell you, I'm deeply investigating Flock Safety right now. And when I fully reveal what I have uncovered, you're going to be pissed off. Let's get into section 2. I do want to remind you that it's important that you follow the Ignition News on your favorite podcast platforms. Do click that subscribe button. Earlier this month, the Supreme Court weakened a key provision of the Voting Rights Act. And within days, and in some cases hours, Republican legislators across those states moved to redraw congressional maps. Some of them did not even wait a full news cycle, by the way. The Supreme Court hands Republican lawmakers a weapon, and they do not go home and think about it, by the way. They just acted. Well, now the NAACP has taken some action. Their president put it directly. These actions happen in days, and in some cases hours, of a Supreme Court ruling that gives extremist lawmakers a playbook to erode Black representation. Today, the NAACP fired back. And they did not fire back with a strongly worded letter. They went straight for the money. This campaign is called Out of Bounds, and it targets public universities in 8 southern states. It calls on Black athletes, recruits, fans, and donors to withhold athletic and financial support from those institutions until affected states restore fair congressional maps with meaningful Black representation. This is an incredible example of activism. Let me break down exactly what this means. The campaign is calling out Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, South Carolina specifically, arguing that the athletic programs of those states' flagship universities are especially reliant on Black athletic talent and should protect Black political interests. We agree. The SEC, the ACC, the powerhouse programs, the ones that print money for these campuses. The president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, said, Black athletes should not be asked to generate wealth, prestige, and power for institutions while those same strip political power from Black communities. The campaign calls on top football and basketball recruits to withhold commitments from targeted programs. It urges current college athletes to use their platforms, their name, image, likeness reach, and where applicable, their transfer options to press universities to take public positions. And it asks fans, alumni, and donors to stop buying tickets, merchandise, and license approval from targeted programs and redirect those funds to HBCUs and related organizations. This is economic pressure. The same tool, by the way, ended apartheid contracts in the 80s, the same tool used in the Montgomery bus boycotts. This is now being applied to college football. The caucus said it will oppose the SCORE Act, a bill that would establish a national framework governing college athletics, including rules for athletic compensation, NIL rights, and protections for student athletes. The caucus said it cannot support a bill benefiting major athletic institutions that remain silent while Black voting rights and political power are systemically dismantled. This is leverage. This is real leverage, and it's an colleges are going to disenfranchise Black representation in Congress. This is an excellent way to push back at the wallet. Well, is it going to work? I have no idea. Boycotts are very hard. You're thinking about getting college kids, 18-year-old recruits, to pass up once-in-a-lifetime scholarships to these states, to Alabama, to Georgia. These are tough decisions. But tough decisions are what ultimately leads to advancing human rights. Here's the thing about the Voting Rights Act. Here's the thing about the rollback. This is not an abstract policy failure or fight. When you draw a congressional district so that Black voters are split across 4 different maps, and their candidate can really never win any of them, this is not just about a page, a map. You're deciding who gets a hospital. You're deciding who gets their school properly funded, who gets infrastructure. And the same thing, the same states, by the way, asking Black athletes to fill their stadiums on a Saturday are erasing their political power. We cannot ignore this. This is a long-term, aggressive boycott of these states and universities. It has our full support here at the Ignition News. If you're first hearing about this, I encourage you to look into this and to support it when and where you can. Let me give you an example in our final story about what happens if you don't take a stand. I want to talk about your water. Your water, by the way, not the water in another town or in some abstract political sense. And this isn't even about data centers. The EPA announced yesterday that it would rescind drinking water limits for 4-pair and polyfluoroalkyl substances, better known as PFAS, and allow water providers additional time to comply with the remaining 2. Okay, I probably pronounced that poorly, so I'm just admitting that. So PFAS are currently forever chemicals. They tend to linger in the environment for hundreds or even thousands of years without breaking down. They have leached into large swaths of the environment and a significant portion of the U.S. drinking water supply. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has detected PFAS in blood of 99% of Americans, including newborns. So you possibly already have these chemicals in you right now, or your children might. And they got here through your water, through your food packaging, through firefighting foam used near military bases, and the industrial discharge that has been going into aquifers and rivers for decades. Exposure to these chemicals has been linked to kidney and testicular cancer, as well as fertility issues and immune system damage. There are thousands of chemicals that fall under this umbrella. In 2024, the Biden administration finally did something about this. They finalized the first ever national legally enforceable drinking water standards for 6 of these chemicals and compounds. That was genuinely a significant advancement. The Trump administration now dismantles the most significant public health advance in drinking water in a generation. And here's what they specifically did. The EPA will rescind and restart regulations on 4 PFAS compounds. Those chemicals include PFNA, PFHXS, Gen X, and PFBS. Again, I may not be pronouncing those correctly. All are considered dangerous to public health. The administration also eliminated restrictions on mixtures of those chemicals. Mixtures of PFAS are even more dangerous to health. 2 of these compounds, which are being retained, the EPA is extending compliance deadlines, meaning water providers can apply to delay compliance until 2031. It's my dog barking. According to the Environmental Working Group, 176 million Americans drink tap water from systems contaminated with these chemicals. The EPA's own test data confirms this. 176 million people. What is the justification for this rollback? They say the Biden administration did not follow proper procedure on the steps of the Safe Drinking Water Act when it set the limits. So a government that has spent its first year dismantling red tape just used procedure and red tape to justify this. Well, Mary Grant, Water Program Director at Food and Water Watch, said, with today's proposals, the Trump administration is telling the public to drink poison. It has once again shown that it represents the interest of billionaire corporate polluters, not the health of the people in the country. This is outrageous. Once again, this administration has chosen the billionaires who coddle up to them instead of your public health and safety. So how do these stories tie together? Well, you have flock cameras and a community that pushed back. You have the Supreme Court changing the Voting Rights Act and the NAACP pushing back. And in Washington, the EPA used procedural language to push back against a chemical industry victory, and now 176 million people whose water is basically already contaminated. The pattern is when people push back, the powerful find a mechanism to override them. In New York, it was an emergency declaration. In the South, it has been gerrymandering. And with the forever chemicals, a lawsuit filed by the people that are poisoning you. The tools change, but the outcomes remain the same. The mayor of Troy did not say she wanted to spy on people. She said she was protecting them. The Republican legislators in Alabama and Georgia did not say they were erasing black voters. They said they were complying with a court ruling. And the EPA did not say it was handing a gift to chemical manufacturers. It said the Biden administration was not following procedure. The only thing standing between you and that outcome in New York was a mom with a stroller. The NAACP is standing between this gerrymandering and students who have to make very difficult decisions, and they're asking them to do that. And some of them are doing that. And now we have to decide if we're going to allow poison into our drinking water. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We have less money. We have less political power. We have less access. We have less institutional power, but we are pushing back nonetheless. I will tell you this. The cameras in Troy are still being fought. The boycott launched today, and the lawsuits over PFAS are still active in D.C. court. None of this is over. We are not over. This has been the Ignition News on behalf of the Rebel Radio Network. Today is May 19th, 2026. If the show matters to you, share it with just one person. Tell them what you heard. Click that subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.